Have you ever looked around and wondered how much of your life is truly yours? The job, the beliefs, the habits, did you choose them? Or did they just happen to you? Carl Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents." This is not about blame, but a quiet truth. We inherit invisible legacies, dreams, disappointments, hopes and fears. How much of our life is truly our own? And how much is an echo from the past? It takes courage to untangle these threads. Have you ever felt like you're living a script handed to you, not one you chose? We perform, wear masks, and say what's expected, blending in, yet feeling a quiet dissonance beneath the surface. Society gives us these roles from childhood, teaching us which emotions to show and which to hide. The danger is forgetting the mask is not our true self. True fulfillment comes when we finally step into the light as ourselves. Why do we so often live by scripts that feel foreign to our spirit? For millennia, our survival depended on the tribe's approval. This ancient need for validation is still coded in our DNA, driving us to please, to conform. But true self-worth can't be granted by others. It must be built from within by listening to the quiet voice of our own soul. The mask we wear has a name. Carl Jung called it the persona, our public face, shaped by society's rules and expectations. It's the smile to a stranger, the competence at work, the agreeable guest at a party. The persona is a tool for survival, but it can become a prison if we forget it's just a mask. When we mistake the mask for our true self, we lose touch with our authentic, complex nature. The challenge is to remember. The mask protects, but authenticity sets us free. In modern society, the pressure to conform is overwhelming. We perform for a global audience, curating our lives for validation. The whispers of the crowd become a deafening roar, pushing us to hide our true selves. In our quest to be liked, we trade authenticity for approval, forgetting how to be real. Living behind the mask of the persona is not a victimless crime. The cost is a slow, creeping numbness, a deadening of the spirit. We lose touch with our true feelings, and the world grows grey. Eventually the mask cracks, revealing the devastating price, our own true self. When we mistake the persona for our true identity, we create what psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott termed the false self. This is more than just a mask. It is a whole substitute personality constructed entirely from the outside in. It is a self built on compliance, on anticipating and meeting the expectations of others. The false self is an exquisitely sensitive creature. It is constantly scanning its environment, seeking clues about how it should think, feel, and behave. Its primary directive is not to be authentic, but to be accepted. It lives in a state of perpetual vigilance, terrified of making a misstep that might lead to rejection. The world of the false self is, well, an echo chamber. Because its identity is derived from others, it surrounds itself with voices that reinforce its constructed reality. It seeks out friends who mirror its own adopted opinions, consumes media that validates its worldview, and avoids any information or experience that might challenge its fragile foundations. It fears genuine intimacy because true intimacy requires vulnerability, the very thing the false self is designed to prevent. Relationships become transactional, a trade of mutual validation rather than a meeting of two authentic souls. The false self cannot truly love or be loved, for it is neither real enough to give love nor courageous enough to receive it. Living as the false self is honestly profoundly isolating. Despite being surrounded by people, the individual feels a deep and pervasive sense of loneliness. It is the loneliness of being fundamentally unseen. The approval and praise they receive are directed at the mask, at the performance. It never touches the real self, which remains hidden and starving for recognition. This creates a terrible paradox. The very thing the false self strives for, connection and acceptance, is the one thing it can never truly experience. It can win applause from the audience, but it remains a stranger to itself, alone behind the curtain. This internal emptiness often leads to a desperate search for external distractions. The false self seeks to fill the void with constant activity, with material possessions, with status symbols, or with addictive behaviors. It is a futile attempt to silence the haunting whispers of the true self, which periodically tries to break through the facade with feelings of boredom, emptiness, or a vague sense of meaninglessness. But the false self cannot tolerate these feelings. It interprets them as a threat to its existence and redoubles its efforts to perform, to please, and to distract, trapping the individual in a tragic, self-perpetuating cycle of inauthenticity and quiet despair. No matter how perfectly constructed, the mask is still just a mask. It is made of porcelain, not steel. Under the pressure of life, it will crack. Tiny fractures, moments of emotion, glimpses of the real self beneath. We can keep patching the mask or find the courage to look at the cracks and begin the journey home. For most of human history, survival meant belonging to a tribe. To be cast out was to face danger alone. This primal fear of rejection still echoes in us today, shaping our need for approval. These ancient instincts are not unbreakable chains, just relics of a world we've outgrown. The ancient instinct for approval now plays out in a global digital coliseum. The arena is in our hands, a glowing screen, both stage and judgment panel. Algorithms measure our worth in likes and shares, fueling a cycle of comparison and performance. We craft personas, seeking validation, yet remain chained to the illusion of authenticity. In the economy of people-pleasing, yes is the most valuable currency. We give it away to avoid conflict, to be liked, to feel safe. But every yes that betrays our true needs is counterfeit, cracking our self-worth and draining our energy. True self-worth begins when we learn to say no with integrity. At the heart of our need for approval lies its shadow, the fear of rejection. This ghost paralyzes us, whispering that if we show our true selves, we'll be cast out. But true belonging isn't found in universal acceptance. It's found by risking disapproval and stepping into the light of authenticity, even as the ghost screams. Imagine a person who has mastered pleasing everyone. Parents, friends, partner, boss. They wear the crown of universal acceptance, yet feel utterly alone. The praise is for the mask they wear, not their true self. To escape this emptiness, one must lay down the hollow crown and seek authentic connection, starting with themselves. To understand what compels us to live for others, we must descend into the cellar of our own being, what Carl Jung called the shadow. It is the dark side of the moon, the parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or disown. Yet within this darkness lies not only our fears, but also our greatest strengths, waiting to be acknowledged and brought into the light. Most people spend their lives fulfilling other people's expectations, and that pressure, it builds. If you've been carrying the weight alone, therapy can be the space where you finally breathe. Online therapy offers affordable, judgment-free sessions wherever you are, with live video calls and WhatsApp support. Use the code THERAPY20 for 20% off. Links in the description below. Ignoring the shadow is not neutral. Repressing our darker parts drains our energy, leaving us fatigued and divided. The shadow does not disappear. It churns beneath the surface, demanding attention, and often escapes in destructive ways. To be whole is not to be perfect, but to accept and integrate all parts of ourselves, light and dark, into a unified, authentic self. The shadow is like an unruly tenant in the basement of your mind. Ignore it, and it rattles the pipes. Irritation, anxiety, slips of the tongue, strange dreams. The more you pretend it's not there, the louder it gets, sometimes slamming doors, sometimes breaking them down in a crisis. These aren't signs of madness, but desperate attempts by your psyche to restore balance. Listening to these whispers takes courage, pausing to ask, what is this really about? And being curious about your dreams and outbursts. It means turning down the noise of daily life and daring to open the basement door, not to fight, but to listen. The whispers aren't threats, they're invitations to wholeness. The shadow wants to be heard, not banished. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like the choices you've made weren't truly yours? I'd love to know. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Confronting the shadow isn't a battle, it's alchemy. Integration means bringing rejected parts of yourself into the light, transforming their raw energy into strength and creativity. This starts with radical honesty, owning your projections, mistakes, and uncomfortable truths. Acceptance disarms the shadow's destructive power, letting you channel anger into boundaries, vulnerability into connection, and creativity into action. Integration is lifelong. New shadows emerge as you grow. The goal isn't perfection, but an ongoing dialogue with your whole self. This is individuation, uniting your inner opposites, turning the lead of fragmentation into the gold of authenticity. The journey is never finished, but every step brings you closer to wholeness. If this is resonating with you, you'll probably connect with everything else we explore on this channel. Consider subscribing. It helps us reach more deep thinkers like you. The shadow hides your gold, your greatest strengths buried in what you most reject. The traits you despise in others often point to disowned parts of yourself that need reclaiming. Approach your darkness with curiosity, not judgment. It's a mirror showing you what you need to become whole. True self-acceptance is fierce. It means embracing your monsters, sitting with shame and rage and welcoming lost parts home. When you do, you reclaim trapped vitality and become more grounded, compassionate and powerful. Freedom comes from facing your darkness, no longer fearing exposure, but living as your whole complex self. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and that means embracing every part, even those you once hid. After meeting your shadow, you face a choice: patch the mask or answer the call to individuation. This journey home to your true self demands courage, the willingness to question your old life and tolerate discomfort. Individuation means leaving the safety of conformity and venturing into your own psyche. Crises, burnout, anxiety, loss are not failures, but invitations to a new story. Answering the call is an act of rebellion, claiming your inner world over external expectations. The first step is deciding your own experience matters more than the crowd's approval. It's the moment you take off the mask and begin to know the stranger within, your true self. Individuation demands the courage to be disliked. As you shed your persona, others may resist or try to pull you back into old roles. You must distinguish healthy self-honoring from harmful selfishness and anchor your worth within, not in others' approval. True compassion comes from authenticity. Relationships that survive this shift become deeper and more honest. The courage to be disliked is the courage to trust your own inner compass. You can't be a light for others if you're dimming your own flame. Individuation is knowing who you are and daring to speak it, even if your voice shakes. Individuation isn't mapped like a business plan. It's a process of listening, turning down the world's noise to hear your soul. This dialogue can be uncomfortable, revealing shadows and truths, but it uncovers your unique values and purpose. In this way, you become the author of your own story. The journey of becoming yourself is not about arriving at a fixed identity, but about embracing a process of continuous, dynamic unfolding. Life ceases to be a checklist of external achievements and becomes an ongoing exploration of your own potential. The path is not one you find, it is the path you make by walking it. As you walk this unfolding path, you begin to experience moments of profound synchronicity. The path unfolds before you, not because you have willed it, but because you have finally become willing to walk it. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This journey isn't about happiness or acquiring more, but about meaning, becoming whole, authentic and free. When you integrate all parts of yourself, you radiate integrity and offer your unique gift to the world. In doing so, you honor your soul and inspire others to do the same. You can climb every rung of success, win every trophy, and still feel empty inside. The applause fades, the rewards lose meaning, and you realize the life you built isn't truly yours. True fulfillment comes not from external achievements, but from living in alignment with your own soul's code, your authentic self. When a life is lived in service to the expectations of others, a slow-acting poison begins to seep into the soil of the psyche. That poison is resentment. It is a bitter, smouldering emotion born from 1,000 tiny acts of self-abandonment. It is the accumulated weight of every yes that should have been a no, every silenced opinion, every swallowed truth. This resentment rarely announces itself with a roar. It is a quiet, creeping thing. It festers in the darkness, a toxic byproduct of the unlived life, poisoning relationships and corroding the self from the inside out. Initially, this resentment is often projected outward. It is aimed at the parents whose dreams you felt compelled to fulfill, the partner you tried so hard to please, or the boss whose approval you desperately sought. You see them as the architects of your gilded cage. Their expectations feel like chains, their love like a conditional contract. This can manifest as passive aggression, a cynical attitude, or sudden, inexplicable flashes of anger that seem disproportionate to the situation. You become difficult to be around, prickling with a discontent that you yourself cannot fully articulate because its true source lies within. Over time, however, the most corrosive form of resentment turns its gaze inward. You become angry with yourself. You resent your own lack of courage, your own inability to stand up for your needs, your own complicity in the construction of your own prison. This self-directed resentment is a form of slow psychological suicide. It eats away at your self-esteem, convincing you that you are weak, ineffectual, and unworthy. It is the voice that whispers, "You did this to yourself. You had a choice, and you chose to be a coward." This internal conflict is exhausting, a constant civil war that drains you of all vitality. This poison has consequences. It makes genuine connection impossible. How can you truly love someone you secretly resent for the sacrifices you chose to make for them? How can you respect yourself when you are filled with contempt for your own perceived weakness? Resentment is the ultimate barrier to intimacy, both with others and with yourself. It creates a thick, murky fog that obscures all true feeling. The only antidote to this poison is the painful work of taking responsibility. Not blame, but responsibility. It is the recognition that no one can force you to betray yourself. The power to say no, the power to choose your own path, has always been yours. Living for others is, by its nature, a performance. You are an actor on a stage, playing a role you believe the audience wants to see. The problem is that the performance must be maintained, day in and day out. This creates what researchers call the performance trap. You become so invested in maintaining the facade of being the perfect employee, the flawless parent, or the ever-cheerful friend, that you become terrified of ever letting the mask slip. Your sense of self-worth becomes inextricably linked to the success of your performance. A single mistake, a moment of weakness, or a critical comment feels like a catastrophic failure. This trap is fueled by a deep-seated fear of being found out. You live with a persistent, low-grade anxiety that someone will see the messy, imperfect, and struggling human being behind the curtain. This creates a state of hypervigilance. You are constantly monitoring yourself, policing your own thoughts and emotions to ensure they align with the character you are playing. This is an incredibly draining way to live. A significant portion of your mental and emotional energy is consumed not by living, but by managing the perception of your life. The performance trap is a full-time job with no salary and no holidays. The psychological data on this is sobering. Studies on burnout consistently show a link between this kind of surface acting, displaying emotions you don't actually feel, and high levels of emotional exhaustion and cynicism. When there is a wide gap between your authentic self and your performed self, your brain is in a constant state of dissonance, which is biologically stressful. This chronic stress can lead to a host of physical and mental health issues, from compromised immune function to severe anxiety and depression. The body, in its wisdom, eventually rebels against the strain of the lie. The only way out of the performance trap is to be willing to give a bad performance. It is the radical act of allowing yourself to be imperfect in the eyes of others. It means showing up as you are, not as you think you should be. It is the courage to be tired, to be uncertain, to make mistakes, and to let people see it. This is terrifying at first, as it goes against every instinct of the people-pleaser. But with each small act of authenticity, you reclaim a piece of your own energy. You begin to dismantle the trap from the inside, discovering the profound relief that comes from finally giving yourself permission to get off the wheel. Perhaps the most haunting price of self-betrayal is paid not in the present moment, but in the currency of a life unlived. It is the slow, dawning realization, often in the quiet moments of middle or old age, of all the things you did not do, the person you did not become. This is the ghost of what could have been. It is the painter who never painted, the traveler who never traveled, the lover who never spoke their heart. It is the shadow of your own unrealized potential, a silent companion that walks beside you, reminding you, of the paths not taken. This ghost does not torment you with the memory of grand failures, but with the faint, persistent whisper of abandoned possibilities. It appears when you see someone else living the life you secretly dreamed of, and you feel a sharp, inexplicable pang of envy and sadness. That feeling is a message from your own lost self. It is a moment of grief for the part of you that you sacrificed on the altar of security, or for the sake of someone else's approval. You are not mourning what someone else has. You are mourning what you did not allow yourself to have. This confrontation with the unlived life is the essence of the midlife crisis. It is the moment you can no longer outrun the ghost. The distractions of youth and ambition have faded, and you are left alone with the stark question, is this all there is? It is a moment of profound existential pain, the recognition that the most precious resource you were ever given, time, was spent serving a script that was not your own. The weight of this realization can be crushing, leading to a sense of regret so deep it feels like a physical illness. But even this ghost, as terrifying as it is, can be a guide. Its haunting presence is a final, desperate call to authenticity. It is never too late. You may not be able to reclaim the years that have passed, but you can choose how you will live the years that remain. You can choose even now to pick up the paintbrush. You can choose to speak a difficult truth. You can choose to honor the small, quiet voice you have ignored for so long. To face the ghost of what could have been is to be given one last precious chance to stop creating ghosts and to start, finally, living a life that is truly your own. The journey through the labyrinth of the self has no final answer, only a question that lingers. Who are you really when the applause has faded and the masks are gone? The path is haunted by the ghosts of who you might have been and who you might still become. To walk it is to live with these ghosts not as enemies but as companions, while forging a life that is truly your own. You stand now at a crossroads. Behind you lies the familiar territory of the life you have known. Before you lies the fog, the uncertain path of your own becoming. To choose the path forward is to pick up a specific kind of weight. It is the solid, grounding weight of your own soul. It is the responsibility of being the custodian of your own integrity. To live for yourself is to accept this sacred burden. This weight will feel unfamiliar at first. It is the weight of making your own decisions. It is the weight of defining your own success. It is the weight of a life lived with intention. This weight is also what sets you free. You have your own gravity. You have a place to stand. It is the price of your freedom and the source of your strength. You owe it to yourself to pick up the weight of your own life. Feel the profound and unshakable dignity of carrying it. So, how does one begin? Where is the starting line for this haunted path? There is no grand ceremony, no official starting gun. The journey of 1,000 miles, as the old proverb says, begins with a single step. But on this path, the first step is not an action. It is a moment of stillness. It is the decision to stop running, to stop distracting yourself, to stop performing. It is the moment you finally stand still, take a deep breath, and allow the fog of uncertainty to surround you without reaching for the false comfort of an easy answer or a clear plan. The first step is to listen, not to the clamor of the outside world, but to the quietest, most neglected voice you know, your own. What does your sadness have to say? What is your anger trying to protect? What does your joy feel like in your own body, unperformed for anyone else? Begin to treat your own inner world with the respect you would give to a sacred text. It is written in a language of symbol, feeling and intuition, a language you have been taught to ignore. Learning to read it is the most important education you will ever receive. It is the process of deciphering the unique script of your own soul. Do not wait for courage. Courage is not a prerequisite for the first step, it is a consequence of it. Courage is the muscle you build by taking small, terrifying steps into the fog, again and again. Start small. Say a gentle no to something you do not want to do. Spend 10 minutes in silence just noticing your own breath. Write down a secret dream you have never told anyone. Each of these small acts is a vote for your true self. Each one sends a message to the deep psyche that you are finally ready to listen, that you are finally willing to come home. And so we leave you here at the edge of the fog with a question echoing in the silence. It is the question that Jung and all the great wisdom traditions have posed throughout the ages. It is the question your own soul is whispering to you even now. Who are you when no one is watching? And will you dare to find out? The path forward is haunted, the way is unclear, and the journey is the work of a lifetime. The first step is yours to take. If this made you reflect even a little, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe for more. And if you're ready to start your own inner work, the therapy link's in the description, with 20% off using code THERAPY20.